Okay, there it is, right behind me, the mighty castle of Kronborg, which is well known for Hamlet, the play of Shakespeare. It's wet windy here, so not mind my hair. Anyway, so I'm here in Helsingør, and I'm going to meet a fantastic lady, Marianne Andersen, who is known to be the Lady Robotics of Denmark, and more than that, she has been doing great work to engage women and girls into science and technology. So I'm going to meet her very soon. But I want to tell you also that we are about to do the first global summit of tech, or not the tech. It's a two women summit, me and Marianne, and we are going to find out what is needed so that we can enhance the use of good technology in a good way in Denmark and maybe also in Finland. So you are welcome to follow us. Hope to see you in our videos with Marianne very soon.
Okay, we are having the two ladies summit here, tech or not to tech?
That's a question.
That's the question. It's fantastic to have you, Marianne. Well, I have the preliminary from the castle, but anyway, so I want to say that we are going to make two videos. So let's start from, which one do you want to start with?
Robotics.
Robotics, yes. And you are known as the robot Marianne here in Denmark. And actually, I think you are the Lady Robotics of Denmark, because the first time we met, it was 2014, I think. 16 in Robo Business.
Yes, Robo Business, yes.
And then afterwards you have been working with Robo Insights. And I have had the pleasure to visit also. But please tell me, why, in the beginning, how did you become interested in robots?
Actually, it's a coincidence. It's always, or very often, it's a coincidence, right? I worked with ultrasound. I'm an engineer by education, electronics engineer, and I worked with ultrasound, especially within surgery at that time, cancer, looking after cancer, and I worked with intuitive surgical at some point in time. I think it was in 2014-15. So just before I got into events or conferences that had to do with robotics. But I worked with this intuitive surgical robot. It's a huge robot that is used in the surgical room, in the operating room, for different applications. The first robot to be used inside the operating room. Many new robots have come into the operating room afterwards that are smaller and for specific selected applications. But that was how it started. And then I got from there to be hired in Robo Business, which was a company based in Silicon Valley. And I was hired there in 2015, I think. So suddenly I got into the event business within robotics. And again, it was a coincidence. I was looking for a job, and then it looked interesting, so I jumped into it.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's how we met. I think it was in Odense.
It was in Odense, absolutely. Yes, it was.
Yes, Odense is one of the key robotic villages or hubs in the world.
Yeah.
How do you think that is possible that the little H.C. Andersen village has become?
It's because we had two very good success stories that started in Odense, and one was the foundation of Universal Robots. I think it was in 2005. This was the first cobot, and a cobot is a robot where a human person is working together with a robot, and it has been a tremendous success. It was a fantastic invention, and they've been very successful since they were established in 2005. And then I think it was in 2014 we got another big success, and that was MIR, Mobile Industrial Robots. And mobile industrial robots were also placed or situated in Odense. So I think that was, those were the two main things. And then I think also Odense municipality, they have done a lot to make the ecosystem around robotics, because there's also a lot going on in Aarhus and Aalborg and Lyngby near Copenhagen when it comes to robotics. But somehow Odense have got a name in the world, for sure.
Yeah, that is truly fantastic. So, you launched Robo Insights. That is your initiative.
Yes, that's true. I did that in 2017. And I actually started here in Elsinore, where we are now, because I live here, first of all. But secondly, I love to be near the Kronborg castle, where Hamlet was many, many years ago. And I like the story about the robots are here whether we like it or not. How do we want to live with the robots? That's a question. So this, let's say, link to Hamlet, I liked a lot. I like the story because robotics for me is where the past, the future, and the present meet. And it does indeed here near Kronborg. But somehow it was difficult to get the network working in Elsinore. So I moved to Lyngby. I moved to Lyngby to the Technical University of Denmark, DTU, because there are always a lot of engineers interested in robotics. But the main purpose of Robo Insights is still to tell about what's going on in robotics in a language that normal people can also understand. So it's not only for nerds, if you can say so. Nothing bad about engineers, of course, but there's a lot of technical and robotic conferences that is about the technique behind and so on, the programming behind. This is about how do we want to live with robots. That is what Robo Insights is about.
Yes, and you talk a lot about not only the technical robot, but also social robotics. And
How is it used? And because one of the challenges we have today with robotics is that a lot of people are afraid of the robots. And I remember when the first service robots got into hospitals in Denmark, that the employees they took out the power in the evening, so that there was no power in the morning. And I also heard that somebody were peeing into the robot, so it didn't work at all, because they were a little afraid of losing their jobs. And that is still today in 2024 the case. I think it's a pity that a lot of people have no idea about what's going on in robotics. But then there's a small core of engineers and developers that develop the robots and know what's happening, right? I think also Mr. Hansen and Mrs. Hansen should know what's coming, because robots is also about getting new solutions into your home and into your company, not only the big production companies, but also the SMEs, the small and medium-sized companies.
Yeah, that is fantastic when, for example, a small company can use a robot for many things because it's easy to program and, so they are kind of multi-talented.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you have any success story that you could share with us from your robotic journey here in Denmark?
Well, there are a few ones, but one of them that I'm just thinking of is the fact that one of the purposes of Robo Insights is also to show that there are women working in robotics. So my goal has always been to have 50% male speakers and 50% female speakers, just to get the diversity into the whole equation, right? And a couple of years ago, when we had the Robo Insights at DTU in Lyngby, there was one of the young students who came up to me, and she said to me, "This is the first time I feel that I belong in a technical conference." And this is what made me so happy, because this is exactly one of the goals with Robo Insights, that is to show that robotics is also for girls and women. Of course, because we're all going to use the technology at some point in time, whether it's in the factory or in our home or whatever. So we need to have a diverse group of people to develop it. And of course, it's not only about sex or gender, it's also about coming from different cultures and so on. But that is one of the focus areas, that is gender, for sure. because women are underrepresented in robotics today.
It is. But you have been also promoting sustainability.
Sustainability always. It is my impression that that is something that is also of interest to many girls and women. So sustainability, yes, it's important. Also, we're looking at the climate and United Nations goals and whatever. It's a big part of what we do. Yes, that's true. How can technology help us to a better world?
Yes. I remember from one of the Robo Insights, there was this Jacob from a teacher who was talking about robotics in education. Could you just talk a little about...
Was it Morten or?
Yeah, was it Morten?
Morten Jacobsen, maybe?
Yes.
Morten Jacobsen.
Yes.
He's a fantastic speaker and a fantastic person. Yes, I mean, one of the stories that he is well known for is that he has to do with children with special needs, right? So at this school, they had a pupil that could not go into the class because he had some illness that would give him infections very easily. But one of his biggest dreams was to be what is it called, the Lucia brides at Christmas time. So the Morten and his colleagues, they succeeded in having a robot do the Lucia walking with him as the guide, and it was so touching to see how his student colleagues and also Morten and his colleagues worked to make this a fantastic experience for this boy who was sick, sitting at home, but had this big dream of being the bride. Yeah, it was so. Yeah, people were actually more or less crying when he told the story. Yeah.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I heard it too. It's really beautiful.
It does make a difference.
Yes,
yeah.
It does. So there are many ways how you could use robots in education.
Absolutely. Also when learning a new language, for instance, and also if you are autistic and it's difficult for you to see what other people, the emotions in other people can be difficult to. For an autistic child, and their robots is also important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what about robots in the industry? So it can have, you mentioned already SMEs, but different industry. Well, for example, healthcare.
Well, I know that a lot of factories are using the robots now, but it has been coming a little slowly because people have been a little bit reluctant in the beginning, and they needed to hire people to come and get started with the programming and find out how it's working. But there's no doubt that a design like the universal robots, for instance, is very, very user-friendly, even though you are not a PhD in robotics or whatever. But one example is Trelleborg. They do O-rings and different sealing products, and they have started using universal robots in that they have always had a free robot in their production, and then management has said to the employees, okay, play with it and see if you can find a use for this robot. And it has happened that over time the employees have found out, okay, now the robots can be used for that procedure, for instance, to avoid repetitive movements with your arms or whatever. And then Trelleborg have taken the robot into production, and then they have put a new free robot out so that the employees could play with it. And I think that's a really nice way of getting the employees involved instead of coming with 20 robots saying, no, we get started. We are in 2024, we need to burn. Yeah, because we want the users also to accept the fact that robots can help us.
Yes. And robots are not replacing people, but they can be replacing tasks.
Yes. Those are the good robots. Those are the robots we want. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So what about healthcare? I was just thinking about healthcare also, and you have been talking a lot about to be respectful.
Yes.
So in healthcare, that means a lot.
Yes, it means a lot. And I would still think there's a way to go, but more and more robots come into life that can help nurses, that can help patients, that can help elderly people in their homes so that they can stay at home longer. That is a really nice thing because there will be tasks you cannot do when you are maybe 80, 90 years old, but you still want to stay in your home where you have lived for 65 years or whatever. So, and also if you look at a hospital or at a nursing home, the nurses are using a lot of time going from one department to another department with some pills or whatever, paperwork or whatever. So if you can have a robot to do that job so that the nurse can use more time with the elderly or the patients, I think that is a very good thing. And that is coming more and more into hospitals and elder homes here in Denmark.
Yes. Looking from Finland, I so look up to Denmark because it's so much happening here what I don't see in Finland. So you don't have to evaluate Finland in any ways, but what is it that Denmark has become such a global player in robotics? You mentioned universal robotics and MIR and all this, but there must be some kind of maybe attitude, culture towards technology.
I think somehow it's about choosing the topic you want to focus on, and in this regard Denmark have been really good at that. It could also have been space or something else, right, that you want to be famous for, but somehow we have found an interest in doing robotics, a big thing. But we have a lot of education within robotics, so both when it comes to Master of Sciences, Bachelor of Science and PhDs, there are programs in the bigger tech universities in Denmark, both in Aalborg, Aarhus, Odense and Copenhagen. And also it's possible to take a long life education within robotics. There are a lot of courses, both at universities or DTI, Technical Institute of Denmark. So there's no excuse not to be well educated within robotics. So we have a lot of people working to make this happen because we know that AI, robotics, automation is part of the future, and we do not have that. We do not have any raw materials and things like that in Denmark. We live because we think and develop and innovate new products. So I think that's it's about design. I mean, Denmark has always, for many years, been well known for good design. So yeah.
So do you see any challenges ahead? When you think about the future of robotics, what are the biggest challenges?
I think one of the challenges, but it moves very much from generation to the next generation. I think adaptation of using robots is a challenge. It will take time. It's coming little by little, but I think with the next generations, it's going to happen more quickly. I would love that sometimes when you develop a robot that you think the human being more into it. So if you develop, let's say, a robot for elder care, that is not only an ugly plastic robot, if I may say so. Yeah. But something that's also a good design. Also, when it comes to the user interface and the user experience, you look into the user and how you can help the user in a good way. Mm-hmm.
So what is your vision for robotics here in Denmark and maybe also globally? So what do you think in 5-10 years? You talk about human-centric and all this. So
I think that will be the main thing, right? Because we need the robots to take over some of the jobs that are repetitive and that will destroy the human being, if you can say so. Because I think we want robots that prolong life and also give us a quality of life in many different aspects. Also, maybe take some of the if you can say, boring work away, so that we have more time to talk to each other. But we should really think of, when we develop the robots to be used in hospitals and private homes and so on, that we develop them so that we get more time to do good things, right?
So what would be your message to aspiring roboticists? How to come to the field and how to focus and how to get interested in all this?
First of all, I would really love more girls and women to be interested in robotics, because I think we need the female perspective somehow. So that is definitely number one. And in another initiative I'm doing, High Five Girls, we do a lot of camps and activities for girls to show them that robotics is also for girls, of course, and women, and it's not that difficult. So jump into it. But I think we should not do the technology just for the technology or the sake of the technology. We should do it because there's a purpose with it.
Thank you, Marianne. This is good words to end this conversation.